You're live. Hello there. Um, Welcome to the Montserrat Gobshite Unillustrated pre-season team overview. Rather than just drop out little pithy remarks on Twitter this year, we thought we'd do something slightly different and chat live. It's a week since we did the Globbies, and I'm such an egomaniac that I just wanted to put my face on YouTube again. But I'm not alone. With me to chat through the 18 teams, we've just had some very tough maths to work out whether it was 18 or 19 teams in the league this season. It's definitely 18. We have James. Hello, James.
Hello.
And we should have Vince. Hello, Vince.
Hi, guys.
Share. I'm just going to drop this into the main chat if we can.
Gonna have hopefully a few viewers, and there's a chat on YouTube, but if I remember correctly, there's a slight delay between what we say now and what people see on YouTube, so the chat might be a few seconds late.
Yeah, from the Globbies, the chat was about 30 seconds behind, so that's some fun.
Okay. Excellent.
I believe we're going to go through the teams in the draft pick order. Is that right, Vince?
It is correct. Yeah, that's how the overview is built.
And we'll kind of build the rankings out as we go through. So I think let's move right on to the next slide, which is season 6. Vince, do you want to talk us through the World Cup?
Well, I'm sure everybody who views this knows now, but yeah, that's just a way to keep track of who's been doing well through the seasons.
Yep.
And World Cup winners. So the idea was we go through the World Cup cycles as they went into history. If ever we reach, what is it now? Is it 30 World Cup? No, 2022 World Cup we're in. So if ever we reach 88 seasons of Gobshite Draft League, we will have then caught up with reality or something like this. But yeah, 1930 was won by Barcelona and Stefan. Congratulations, guys. And we are now entering the 1934 Italy World Cup cycle. Can't wait to see who will win in the end.
Exciting times. And who won the first one? Was it Stefan at Barcelona?
Stefan at Barcelona.
Congratulations to Stefan. All right, I think we should we just dive right in onto our first team, which, as the eagle-eyed viewers may have spotted, is the Chilean Menace.
The title holders, is that how you say it in English?
Yes.
Yes.
Current title holders. They've got Ronnie again. They chose to go first, which I think is a reasonable shout.
I agree with that. Like what they wanted to do was to pick Ronaldo again, isn't it?
Yeah, and they managed it. They absolutely managed it.
Well, they went first, so I guess that was kind of the guarantee.
Took a lot of grit and determination, but
they went for a manager very, very early, and a manager that no other team has even considered drafting at any point. Am I right in that, or am I just making it up?
I mean, Francisco is the manager he's had since partway through season 4. He kept Flick for season 5, and Flick was his manager when he won the league. And yeah, Francisco's clearly decided that probably means he's okay.
Out of curiosity, has there ever been a winning team that hasn't kept their winning manager?
No, you did keep Zidane last time, didn't you?
Yeah. George kept Gasparini for one more season. Nicky kept Luis Enrique. Who won season 4? That Barcelona, yeah. So yeah, Stefan's obviously kept Pep the whole time. So yeah, we are 5 for 5 on league winners saying if it ain't broke.
I don't want to be the doomsayer here, but this has never done very well for any team that has won the league before. So Just saying.
keeping your team together, or even not changing the team enough, as we saw with FC Surs. They kept basically the same team, and it just didn't work in the follow-up season. But let's get specific. What do we think of this Menace team? I mean, Ronnie is always going to get you goals in the Gobshite League, which is good.
Something else to mention as we get into looking at the team here is we're really basing our other view on the starting 11, basically. So we don't take in consideration substitutes, so that it's clear for all the viewers.
Yeah.
So if Ronaldo gets crocked in week 2, that's obviously going to somewhat impact the effectiveness of the men's.
Yes.
But yeah,
as you can tell, this has happened before.
The team is full of the sort of players where, like, for the most part, I don't consider drafting them. But then I look at them as a complete team and I'm like, yeah, I should probably actually consider drafting them because it's just a pretty well-rounded team all in all, isn't it?
Yeah. I wasn't too impressed with Ziyech last season, but that might just be because Manchester was shit last season as opposed to Ziyech being shit. I'd like that defence. Admittedly, there's a lot to like in, especially the centre back pairing. I think that's a very, very strong centre back pairing.
That's what I was about to say. The fridge and Koulibaly is definitely strong. And when just in front of them you have Verratti and Vidal, like that looks really cool. That's the type of team you'd want to see in real life.
Yeah, absolutely. So, where do we think these guys are placing on the chart? If we just flick over to the chart now.
At the moment, do you want me to share my screen now so that, or can the viewers actually already see
the viewers should be able to see your screen right now. So if you want to grab the Chilean Menace logo and drop them.
I guess, yeah, if we start in the middle and then just we'll move them up as and when we put other teams below them, right?
Yeah, sounds good.
It's probably the easy way to go about it because otherwise we could be like, just easier this way. Cool. That gives us the Chilean Menace.
All right, let's move on then to the Weasels. They've won it before, but they haven't been, I think, with the greatest amount of respect to George, they've been pretty shit every season since then.
That's true. I remember when I started building the World Cup table, they were quite high, actually, one of the contenders, when I was starting to think about it before sharing it in the chat. And since then it's plummeted a little bit.
Yeah. I think this year, obviously, George has got a couple of things working against him. First of all, he doesn't have JWP, which is a pretty major blow. Secondly, Vince, he's got Messi.
Well, that's the good thing is that it makes our job easier. Like we know it's going to be average.
Yeah, and thirdly, George is still in the completed it mate mindset and is deliberately trying to do dumb stuff because he said in the chat earlier that he's playing strikerless. So even though we've got it laid up as like a 4-2-4, it's more like a 4-2-4-0.
Yeah, I mean, it's always the same. Like, there's the intention of the DOF, how fantasist it can be, and Soriel can talk about that. And there's the actual application on the pitch by the manager. I hardly believe that the manager is going to field zero attackers. There's always going to be a few there. So that's why, like, it's laid out this way, but the intention is definitely translated or understood.
So George is raging in the YouTube comments right now, which is very much making me laugh.
I understand the idea. I totally understand how you don't want to play Messi as an attacker, but a bit like the things that had happened before for the previous Gobshite and Illustrated preseason team overviews. What the DOF wants is really what the manager does. And we're trying to stick to what the manager is going to do. The actual real life action. Real virtual life action.
Okay, so if we just take it that the manager's preferred formation, I'm being told, is 4-2-4-0 DM AM, which Okay, so just like imagine to move everything down like a centimeter on that screen, and that's what we're looking at.
Yes, more or less. Oh wait, actually, you know what? If we really want to do it this way, blah, 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 please bear with.
Are you going to replace the image?
Oh
I am
wow!
going to do that. I'm going to do that live. Absolutely.
I mean, I think we can trust our viewers to imagine
To
a couple
imagine
of shirts
Silva,
moved down a bit,
Messi
right?
moving down to be in line with Insigne and Sterling.
Yeah.
What do we think of this Fernandinho Brozovic pivot, who I imagine are going to have to be doing quite a lot of defensive work?
I mean, they're both great players at doing that thing that you said. And with the strikers only in attacking midfield, they don't have as far to get up the pitch to link the play.
And when you think about it, the two wingers, Insigne and Sterling, are very much attacking wingers, isn't it? So can basically come out wide, cutting into the surface.
And just to kind of wrap up on this, I can't remember exactly what we said in season 2, but I'm pretty sure we had the Weasels very, very low down, playing the complete wrong formation, and then Gasperini ball took the league by storm, and they won it very, very easily. Are we really actually, by saying this team's a bit shit, setting them up to win?
Yeah, I think we should do George a favour and slot them in at 17th.
It's not possible, dude. They have Messi. They are going to be bang in the middle.
All right, so I think we've got to a reasonable spot there. So where shall we drop Weasels in?
The question is, do we place them above or below the Chin and Menace?
Below.
Below. Let's put them in that 10th, 11th, 12th for now.
Sure.
Because Messi can't possibly have another terrible year. Like, he's got to be the player of the year one of these leagues.
We'll see. I mean, the thing is, Reece continues to run the league to test it. Before the season, basically, I believe, just how do you say it? He just exhausts Messi on these fake leagues, and therefore, when comes the real one, it's just average.
All right. If we get back onto the slideshow, we're now on Millwall. Exciting Millwall, the league's most chaotic team, and possibly the picking up Surreal's mantle of the gimmick team this season.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
It's
one of those things where, weirdly, obviously there's a lot that's been gone into like the gimmick of the team, but ultimately it's just like a slightly mediocre by the standards of the league, but still perfectly serviceable team. Because unlike Newcastle, current team, Spurs past and present, actually has lots of good players. It's just a smaller talent pool.
Sure. So if you were Mar and you were drafting this, would you have taken Bale over Modric, knowing on round 3, knowing that the chances are whoever you don't take isn't coming back to you? That's been my biggest question about the Millwall draft so far, is that I think I'd have taken Modric to play centre midfield round 3. And
I mean, it's down to how committed you are to the gimmick. If you're committed to the gimmick, you go for Bale because he is more iconic than Modric. I think, although I love Modric for that Tottenham image. If you're more towards the optimization of the roster or the squad, you probably should have gone Modric.
I think if you're going for iconic, I'd have taken Modric before Son, probably, because obviously Son has been very, very important the last couple of seasons for Spurs. But I think long term, I'd associate Modric more strongly. Maybe that's just me. I don't know.
Yeah, it's still a very decent team, but as you say, by the Gobshite League standards, it might just be lacking a little bit. I fear mainly for the midfield, like the Kane, Son, Eriksen, Bale is still very good in Football Manager anyway. It's certainly powerful, but midfield with Ndombele and Paulinho, it might be lacking a bit. Great goalkeeper though, probably the best of the league.
I'm always torn when someone picks a broadly sensible team, but from a smaller pool of players. My first thought is always that the first time someone did that, they won the league and cup double. So I'm reluctant to completely write them off.
Well, the conditions were different, though, isn't it? Like all
Yeah.
injuries and fatigue was wiped out every game, so it also reduced the fact that the bench is a lot less deep than
Yeah,
any of the other team in the league.
I mean, in our team lineups, we've only shown the first 11, but the drop off in quality for the All Spurs team is going to be much greater than the drop off in quality for the other teams we've seen. I think this is comfortably the worst team we've seen so far, but it's probably not the worst team we're going to see.
No. I think it's close between them and Weasels just because I do not trust Football Manager to do George's vision justice.
Sure.
But assuming for the sake of argument now that the Football Manager does make the 4-2-4-0 work properly, I think that just a Spurs team is worse than that.
Sure. So shall we whack Millwall into 13th, 14th, 15th and go from there?
Let's see. I mean, it doesn't stop us from putting them a bit up or a bit further down as we go, but it's a starting point.
Sure.
Yep.
All right, moving on. We now have the Manx, which, just as I was kind of going through the presentation slightly before we went live, this team really stood out to me as a very good team.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much agree with that. I believe it's the first team I was doing the formations for before we reached out to all the DOFs to give theirs. And I was looking at Dybala, Mbappe, Silva, I'm like, wow. Then you look at even just the line they have going from goalkeeper to midfield, like Handanovic, Skriniar, Rabiot, Fabian. That's decent.
Yeah, I think the front three is definitely like the headline, and then they've got one of the good keepers and one of the top fullbacks. If you had to find holes, I guess the midfield three is more serviceable than top tier. Like, it's not a bad midfield three, but it's not a headline. Like, it's not the headline of the team. The headline of the team is the front three.
But Pep's Barcelona team with Barella, Bentancur, and Havertz was a very similar functional front midfield three that was passing teams off the pitch, while the incredible front three attacking players scored a shitload of goals, and I can see that happening again.
Yeah, I mean, the comparison here is the Man City side currently, right? Because it's the same manager, it's the same formation, obviously. You've got a similar style with like that sort of like that false nine up top with the real threat coming from the wings, with Mbappe being an upgrade on Sterling, Bernardo Silva being roughly equivalent to Bernardo Silva, Dybala being an upgrade on Jesus or Foden or whoever's playing in that false nine role. And then that's where I'm possibly saying the midfield looks a bit weak, because I'm looking at it sort of almost wanting to see Kevin De Bruyne.
Yes, there maybe isn't quite the same level of superstar in the midfield three to make things happen. We've got a couple of interesting points raised from chat here. Stefan is very upset that Jake stole Barella away. He said, "How dare he steal my boy?" And George says, "Having a round 13 pick starting at DC is a bad sign, in my opinion."
That is true, because I mean, Reece definitely proved pretty conclusively in season 5 that centre backs do actually, in fact, matter.
Yeah.
And Demiral, if you had to point at one player and say they're going to cost the team points, you'd point at Demiral probably.
But I think Demiral is probably better than Chris Smalling, who was who was one of Reece's top centre backs last season. So I think that there's lip service being paid to centre backs mattering there. So yeah, shall we place these lads? I get the impression they're probably going to be the highest ranked team that we've put in so far.
Um, I would agree with that. Just because the front three is just so potent, like this can win you games on its own, even if Barella just barely passes the pass towards Mbappe or Silva. So.
Sure.
So do we put them like somewhere with the Chilean menace on 7, 8, 9, or do we put them a rank above?
I would put them in third or first loser just for now.
Sure.
I think that team is better than any of the ones we've seen so far.
Yeah, the
Fair.
Menace are very good, and I expect the Menace to be top half. I think it would be a disappointing season for the Manx if they weren't at least at some point in the conversation having Vince wrongly predict them to win the league.
They were in the race for the title last season. Like they were very much in it for a long period of time.
Yeah.
Ready. So yeah.
Cool.
Excellent. That's the Manx.
All right. Now we have Halfman.
Half-9 method.
Just consistently a mystifying team. They go on incredible unbeaten runs and they lose to Real Madrid, and they've been exactly the same every single season. I don't really know how Todd manages to keep putting together these wildly inconsistent teams, but when these teams are good, they are very, very good. So
yeah,
what do we think of this? Is it a classic Halfman team here, or have they got better?
Consistency is the biggest issue they've had, and I'm looking at Coutinho and Willian as the wingers and thinking, yeah, that checks out.
I mean,
I agree. Looking at it, Lewandowski, Big Bob, is probably the one outstanding player from the side. I'm a bit surprised that maybe I'm underestimating De Jong a bit. Football, maybe not by Football Manager standard, but by what I see, like Lewandowski is a cut above the rest of the team, and I don't know that it's going to be enough for a first half finish. That's just my take on it. I'm probably wrong.
It's tough to say. I feel like it's an uneven team in that it's got some real standout. Like I do quite like De Jong, especially with Partey. Like that's going to be a really annoying midfield pair for other teams to try to get past. I think that Hummels is a very good defender. I think Cancelo is a very good fullback, although I'm sure Reece would say that he's playing on the wrong side. And obviously, you can't really look past Big Bob. As far as strikers go, he's probably the first best striker in the world right now.
Agreed. I mean, you probably need at least that to top Benzema as a striker. So.
But yeah, you do see like De Jong and Partey maybe do lack a bit of creativity. I think Tolisso is he's a solid number 10, but I don't think he's a spectacular one.
Yeah.
Willian definitely stands out especially when you look at what he's been like in real life recently. Pretty, you're not going to be trying to get monetized. I use dog shit.
Yeah.
And likewise, like Zuma isn't terrible, but he's also not starting for Chelsea, and Chelsea aren't exactly the most amazing defensive side. Like, it's a team where you can imagine there'll be days when they win and days when they lose, which is just standard Halfman, really.
I've had Zuma in the Label of the Foot side for a few seasons, and he's been serviceable. Not starting potential, but serviceable most of the time.
Interesting. I see. I think you two are more negative about this team than I am. Chat pointing out that Tolisso is probably the weak link in this side. People asking why Reece isn't on this call, and I think it's been answered in chat that we hear Reece talking, or we hear Reece talking every day. So he just wasn't invited. So yeah, where do we think Halfman are going to finish? If I bring back window capture 2. Oh, we're on the wrong screen. I will go off.
Apologies.
I will go off that.
No, that's absolutely fine. That's where we want it to be. I got distracted a bit as I'm plugging back my headset on.
Okay.
I won't be cut off.
I
So
would
we're-
put personally. I'd put half man in between Menace and Weasels.
That seems fair to me.
Between Halfman and Weasels, okay. I mean, the Weasels team has their formation, or the intended formation being a bit odd, but it does. Yeah, I get that. Like, I don't feel strongly about. I would say they're very close to each other's. Whether they're one above the other, I don't feel strongly about.
Cool. All right then. Let's see the next team, which are perennial underdogs, the Brigstock Big Cocks. We've predicted them to win this before. Not a group decision.
I mean,
So
the lineup this year seems really good.
it's definitely the best they've looked. I think BBC have the advantage. Oh, Dave has the advantage in that he's the DOF who cares the least about this. But the team have the disadvantage that their DOF cares the least about this. But you have to look at that and say that's, as you know, kind of all Premier League team, basically all Premier League teams go. That's a pretty solid lineup for the BBC.
Yeah, I mean, especially from Kante forwards, like part of me wants to criticize Gundogan because in Football Manager he's only sort of, he's very good, but he's not top tier. But then it feels incredibly silly doing that based on real life at the moment. Whereas Jesus, it's the other way, where in real life he's looked increasingly questionable, but he's still pretty damn good as a finisher on Football Manager. But Kante is the best defensive midfielder. Sorry, mate, it's true. De Bruyne is the best player. And then Grealish and Aubameyang are fantastic attacking threats off the wings. Like, what's not to love there?
I mean, I agree with you. Like, Gundogan seems a little bit below the others, but when you surround him by such players, it's like he's gonna be good anyway, isn't it? Like when you have De Bruyne, Kante, and like Aubameyang or Grealish, whichever side they play on, just outside of you. Again, you just need to push the ball a bit further, and someone else will take it, and boom, you score a 7 average rating.
So, is this the best Brigstock? Well, we know that this is the best BBC team, but are they a good team this year, or is it still going to be poor? Are they've got to be better than the relegation fodder that we've seen from them before, but how much better?
I do think they're going to be significantly better. I wouldn't be surprised if they finish in the first half. And today, I would put them maybe not top, but somewhere like 4, 5, 6. But that's me being a bit optimistic, I believe.
I don't think that they're better than Chilean Menace, simply because we've not really discussed it yet. The back line, Silva and Matip, are very good as partners to go with other types of players. I don't think they mesh very well. I think Matip needs pace alongside him, and I think Silva definitely needs pace alongside him. And together, I think they're relying on Kante to do a lot of work.
Yeah, if only Kante was a workhorse. No, if there is a weakness in the lineup, it is that back four. So, yeah, I personally wouldn't put these. If we go back onto the ranking list, I would probably put them kind of in the Weasels bracket for now. Probably dropping down when we get more teams to put in there.
I don't know, I see De Bruyne, Kante, Aubameyang, and I'm like, when you see who, I understand that the centre backs are limited compared to other top centre backs, but I struggle to see that team in the second half of the rankings. But I'm happy to put them aside. I would put them above the Weasels for the time being, to be very honest.
That's a big call, but you're the editor, so we will stand by your decision for now. All right.
For now. It doesn't mean that this can't change later on.
Arbor Red, my second team. I like these boys.
Yes, I mean there's a lot to like again. Although we get back to this, isn't it? Like the players are great. I love Muller, I love Neymar, but neither of them is really surgical, as guest on this call would say. Clinical, pardon. So I don't know. And Kimmich can play anywhere. I understand that. Pepe is a bit old and not exactly quick. I don't know. To me, it looks like where you placed the BBC before is where I would place the Arbor Red.
See, I think Neymar has been consistently one of the best players in every simulation that's been done, and just generates so much on his own and for the team that I think this might be the year that Arbor Red sort out some of those defensive frailties that they've always suffered from. We've got a much better goalkeeper and a fantastic, if slow, centre back in Pepe, and Kimmich Goretzka midfield. I think this is a decent squad here, but I am biased.
What's your take, James?
For me, it looks like I'm trying to think how to word this. I think it looks like what most core sides have looked like, which is like elements of a good team, and then about halfway through the first 11 part of the draft, cores got a little bit bored and just started drafting mean, angry bastards to fill out the side. And so I think he'll do his usual thing of sort of come in like 12th-ish.
That's a brave thing to say, Arbor Red's usual thing when they've finished last twice.
Okay.
I think with Neymar as part of this team and the casual nasty bastards, that there is a chance that this team delivers here. And as Reese is backing me up in the chat, that Neymar is insane.
It's kind of, I mean, a player being insane is definitely something that matters. But we've seen with Messi, he's been insane every season. Never has he finished above 8th, if I remember correctly, like barely first half of the rankings. So you can be great, but it's not everything. I don't see this team, aside of Neymar, pulling their weight enough.
Okay.
I don't know. That's just maybe.
So where are we putting these guys then? Oh, you've already placed them.
I mean, it's just a first draft, of course. Where would you guys put it?
I'm beginning to feel bad about Weasels.
Feels about right for me.
But let's leave them. Let's put them leave them there for now. Yeah, that seems good to me. Let's move on because we have a lot more teams to get through. Okay.
We're nearly at half.
Yeah. West Bromwich Albion. Now, this is an old team, with the exception of Haaland. But with experience comes success. Discuss.
I do like this team a lot. I understand it's old, but it's going to be only for one season. We're not trying to build a lasting team here. And when you look at the team, that like Haaland, of course, is still very young in real life, but in the game is already like one of the best strikers, and I believe one of the rare players that can actually finish the season with like visibly better stats than he started it with. You have Mahrez, Di Maria, excellent wingers. Modric and Kroos still more than serviceable, like good midfielders. Fabinho, I believe, is excellent in the game, and I'm not saying that because the only title I won was with him. Then that's true from everyone anyway. You get what I mean? Benatia is a really good central defender. I think in the game as well. One of the weaknesses could be the goalkeeper, I guess, which is kind of annoying because I believe Rhys said this 2 seasons ago, or was it you, James? Where Football Manager in the draft league or the Gobshite draft league, as it's set up, good goalkeepers will win you points, and it probably is more important to draft a good goalkeeper than it is to draft a good midfielder or maybe even a good attacker.
I think Rhys is the one who made the case to me at the start of season 3 draft that you either need a really good defense or a really good goalkeeper. And as long as you have one, it's okay to sort of let the other one be only, not bad. Obviously, you don't want a bad team, but like make them less of a priority. With Wedge, they've made neither part a priority. And in exchange, their front six is bloody amazing. But that back five is like you'd expect Wedge to score a lot and concede a lot. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I think if anyone's going to take the Arbor Red crown of death, taxes, and Arbor Red conceding goals, it's probably this team. That they're going to have games that are 4-3. They're going to have games that are 5-1 in either direction. But the Fabinho winning the ball, laying off a little pass to Modric, who creates a wonder pass to Haaland, we're going to see that highlight a lot this season. And I think we're going to see that in all Wedge games. When you look at them on YouTube, they're going to be about 10 minutes longer than every other team's games, just because there's going to be more happening there's going to be more happening for the interesting stuff for the simulation to show. So where do we think this team sits in our ranking?
It's terrible, but I would put it middle of the pack exactly for what both of you have said, which is scoring a lot but conceding a lot. And this really rings the bell of like top third of the rankings, like somewhere between 7 and 12 would be where I put them.
Yeah, there'll be too many games where they drop points because like other teams can just barrel through their defense. But there'll be way too many games where they just outscore their opposition to actually put them proper low. So, yeah, I'd say middle.
Okay, so are we putting them in the 7, 8, 9 bracket?
Yeah, either at the bottom of that or at the top of the one below, I think.
See, the way I'm coming at this now, I kind of want to see Weasels into 7, 8, 9 and Wedge into 10, 11, 12.
I mean, that's fine by me. Like, I still think that Football Manager will fuck up George's formation, but if we're going to assume that it's favourable to him, then I think that's fair.
And I think there are better teams coming, so George is probably going to drop down. But for now, let's go for that, and because we're over halfway and we still haven't picked out a champion second place or have any real relegation fodder. So I hope there's some interesting teams coming up. And I suppose one of the interesting things that we're going to see going through this is, because we're doing it in draft order, is how much being at the bottom end of the draft and missing out on a star player or a real superstar player is going to hamper your chances.
Yep, that's very true.
Because a player like Neymar, as I've said, will kind of create a lot of chances for your team that is going to lift you up the table. And if you've got players who can play off that, it's going to do well. So let's move on. Okay, who have we got? Sporting Martyrs.
Yes. Do you two want to start?
Sure, let's give it a try. So the team here, I find quite interesting. So there's something that the Martyrs have done last year, which is take one of the young, hot prospects of Europe in Haaland last year. Here, I like to see Odegaard. I know he's not as hot as Haaland was, or Haaland is, but I do like him as a young, upcoming prospect. And the thing is, that really stands out for me is the back six this time. And I have to admit, I'm not too sure about the goalkeeper, but the back six of Alcantara, Busquets, Piqué, Van Dijk, and then on the side, Bernat, and Pava. I know in the game they're in the strongest backs or side defenders, but they do look really good and they do look to complete that side very well. Pavard also has that profile of DC, so if Bernat goes more up the pitch, it's gonna balance. It should balance quite well. Now, to be very honest, I'm not too sure about the front four. I said I like Odegaard. I understand how Firmino plays, but I had never found Kulusevski or Gomez to bring a big difference up front to support that. I guess it's kind of the opposite of the West Bromwich Albion for me.
Yeah,
That's fair. I will say with Kulusevski in particular, I had him last season, and he's one of the players who, he's one of the few players who actually looked good in the second half of the season. So part of me was being sentimental to that and wanting to reward it. I'm sure Reece will be able to give exact stats, but I feel like other than obviously Haaland and Griezmann, I think he was my top scorer for the entire of the season. But yeah, I think your description is fair, but I'll let Mate go.
yeah. I think you've got in defensive midfield and at centre back, you've got probably the best possible players for those positions. Maybe Busquets is getting on a bit, but I'm slightly concerned that all that defensive solid work is gonna cost you with players up front. Firmino's never been a great goal scorer. Kulusevski, he might have been your third best goal scorer last season, but last season you had Haaland and Griezmann to replacing Haaland and Griezmann with Odegaard and Firmino seems like a difficult thing for me.
That's fair.
Yeah, and I think I would probably say we're not going to get a lot of highlights out of your games. That we're going to have a lot of 1-0s here, which is probably what you were going for. Is I know you tried to draft that exact style of football before.
Yeah, it's funny because I came about it from a different way. Because when I tried to do it before, it was very much the Simeone style: deploy a low block, try and hit on the counter. Whereas here, the style I've gone for is the Pep era Barcelona tiki taka.
Yeah,
where I've got Thiago as like a rough equivalent of Xavi, Odegaard as my attempt at Iniesta, Van Dijk for Puyol, Busquets and Piqué reprising their roles, Simone as Valdez, and then my wings are flipped. So I've got Bernat as the bombing fullback instead of Alves, Pavard as the slightly deeper fullback instead of Abidal. The difference is obviously Barcelona had Messi, and I couldn't realistically get him.
yeah.
So it's an experiment in how a rough equivalent of Pep era Barcelona would do without its best player, is how I'm envisioning it. But yeah, so my main goal is try not to concede too many and be first in the league in possession. That's my stated aim going into the season.
Yeah, it's and Reece has just raised a good point. The problem here is that they're defensively solid, but their attackers want to pass it into the goal. Who can actually finish those moves? And I suppose my concern here is that are Gomez, Odegaard, and Kulusevski the best people to finish those moves? And I'm not entirely convinced, but still, it's going to be very, very difficult to get the ball off you and then score a goal off you.
There will also be the question. I know the draft isn't finished, so it's not certain, but clearly you can't get Pep Guardiola, the iconic coach of Tiki Taka. I know there are a few others available, so I'm pretty certain you'll get a coach that does Tiki Taka well enough. But will it be well enough to be implemented with this team and give the results of finishing top of the league? That's another question as well. I guess the choice of the manager might be impactful there.
I have my manager lined up. It's someone I've never heard of, and I have a very good history of making that definitely work out for me. Especially because I also happen to know there's someone I've never heard of. Their backup plan is 3 at the back, which I also definitely have a good history of working out for me. The backup formation for them is 3-1-4-2. So I've tried to draft in that weird way where if they go to the backup, then Bernat will move forward to left mid, Kulusevski dropped at right mid, Pavard move to be the third centre back, and then Odegaard dropped to centre mid, Busquets to defensive mid, Gomez partner Firmino up front, probably bring Big Gonzo on.
apply.
All right.
Well, that would be interesting for sure. Where do we place the Martyrs this season?
Let's
What do you
put.
think, mate?
I think we bump Menace up to 6th for now, and we whack Martyrs in amongst Halfman and Weasels. Oh, do you want to put them there?
To me, it's somewhere between 6, 7,
Yeah,
8.
let's
So
put them in 6th for now, and we'll see. Whammer, are you happy with that, or are you upset?
I mean, I don't think it should be up to me, but I think that's about the right spot. I think Francisco and Jake have better teams than me, and I think it's debatable below that. I mean, I think if you wanted to make the case, you could argue that like Wedge has a better team than me. Certainly for Weasels and Halfman, you could, but I think that at the very least, yeah, I think that's about right in my opinion. But we'll see where it goes from here.
Reese is raging at the height of that. So we're doing something right. Let's move. You people are smoking crack.
the next team on the list.
The next team on the list is the Ducks.
Oh.
Now we focused a lot in the last chat about maybe lacking a goal scoring option up front.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, Reese in the chat was commenting on how my front three combined for 45 goals. I would be very interested to know what the Doctor, Pookie, and gifted crosser of the ball, Jesus Navas, combine for.
We've got some trash talk as well from George saying it's a shit team for cunts. Now, I don't hate this team. I think the big problem with this team is it's really difficult to. Oh, we're in so much trouble here for it not being right. I think it's difficult without knowing who the manager is going to be to definitely say, because managers do make quite a big difference in games, and Nicky might just be horrible and get someone really, really shit.
I know what manager Nicky is planning on giving Reese. I'm not going to spoil that here because that's not my place to do. I will say that based on that knowledge, I'm going to be campaigning for us to put Reese in 18th place.
Okay. I think Pookie will score a lot of goals this season. I've just got a feeling that the gamble that Reese has taken in guaranteeing Pookie will start by not taking any other strikers is going to be very, very funny, and I think he's going to get goals. We've seen even the bad teams like Real Madrid's Newcastle and Real Madrid's all-striker team, they still scored goals. They still made chances. So if it does end up just being a kind of Route 1 bastard team, I think there's goals in this.
I have to say, Reese made a good point, and I apologize for that. I couldn't update the lineup he sent before this started. So what I'm going to do, if that's okay with you, I'm just going to update it live in front of your very eyes.
Okay.
By bringing them just there. Okay, it's taken a minute, and it should be visible on the presentation now if you want to see it.
We might need Mage to sort of quit and go back in to get it to actually refresh.
Oh.
Shouldn't, maybe. But just so you know, like it's roughly the same 11. The main difference is, oh my God, okay, I understand better why he's updated it. So Navas, gifted crosser of the ball, is now a right wing back, if you want to see it first. We still have Pookie and Rashford up front. As for the defense stays the same. We have Valverde instead of Ndidi. Alberto moving up to center midfield, and someone called Merino that I didn't know of, just replacing Alberto.
Oh, just a little bit of how the sausage is made there. Okay. So now that that's been moved around a little bit, how do we feel?
I have to admit, I do like the back line. Navas or not Navas. I think any manager in the game will ever start Navas as right wing back. So I would say sad because it feels like the DOF of the Patos, plus Patos, rather, does not know the reality of the pitch. But other than that, yeah, I would rank it second bottom half basically.
All right, I just think one more thing we have to talk about with the Ducks is, and I think you've got to look at the Ducks as a team that, they've got a very, very good defence. And they might see a lot of games out to like the 80th minute at 0-0. They look over at the bench, they bring on a set piece specialist and who can just, whip the ball onto a postage stamp. And Pookie, Dr. Rashford, they put the ball away in the back of the net and they win the game 1-0. So what I'm going to say here is that James Ward-Prowse off the bench is going to be the difference maker for this team.
Yeah, when they bring him on for Luis Alberto, I think that's when the team's going to kick into the next gear. Yeah, it is worth again just emphasising how good Reese's defenders are, and it will be great to see that back four lining up every single game, as it definitely might do, and really, getting as strong as it can be. And it definitely won't look like shit in practice.
So do we think that up pros coming in and them gearing to the next level of speed is going to gear them towards what, 10th, 11th, 12th, 7, 8, 9?
Well, Whammer wants to put them at 18th. I think we put
18th will be a lot more accurate. I'm just saying. Put them where you want.
I think we put them in 13th, 14th, 15th. And we'll deal with that as we get to the other bad teams.
So 13, 14, 15. Above or under Millwall day? Above or under the Tottenham team?
I just don't know. I would probably put them above it, but I know Whammer strongly disagrees.
Put them where you want. I understand that you don't know the manager that's incoming.
Yes. Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, we're placing them as we know them of today, of course. Like, if there is a conspiracy within their walls to actually tank a season, like we can't know of it.
All right. Here we are with the regularly unfavoured Real Madrid team.
I have to say, it is quite exciting to see Real Madrid. I find it quite exciting to see Real Madrid fielding a real team again.
Yeah, I think it's nice to see that they've got a real team again. I'm not thrilled by the kit staying the same. And I am also not thrilled about them taking all my favourite players.
True. Pogba, Fernandes are gone. It's quite something.
Yeah, it's a shame about Henderson. Otherwise, that'd be a really perfect midfield.
Nice. I mean, it does look like a good team. Like Mane is a tremendous winger. I believe Chris could confirm that he's been like really top 5 to 10 most seasons. Fernandes seems to have been good in Football Manager. I have to admit, I don't realize whether he's had good seasons. But yeah, Pogba good. Like, it seems a fairly well-rounded team. Is that enough? I don't know. Like, it feels like having a very good part of the team and weaker other has been the better way to win the league.
I think it's a really fun team. I like it's definitely got its glaring weaknesses. Like we were talking before with West Bromwich Albion about how having a couple of less impressive defenders and like not one of the elite goalkeepers is a serious issue for a team to overcome. And I think that West Bromwich Albion at least had Fabinho mopping up in front of that defence, whereas Real Madrid has Pogba and Henderson. Like, had these drafted Klopp as his manager, and like there's a clear aim here of sort of doing that pressing style with Henderson in midfield. You've got Mane, Immobile, who are both really high work rate. Fernandes is as well. But like I'm looking at it and I'm just seeing holes. Like I think it will be a really cool team. I think it will win a lot of games and it will look really good when it does. But I also think that there's definitely going to be opportunities for it to shit the bed.
Which is classics of Real Madrid. So, where do we put them? Oh, where's my window?
Do you like the team?
You do like the team. That's good.
I do like the team. I don't want to put them towards the bottom because I also want to encourage them to not field random shit teams again. So I'd rather put them somewhere like in that weird middle, like 7 to 12.
I think they should go one side or the other of West Bromwich Albion because I think, despite having different formations, I think they're quite similar in their strengths and their weaknesses.
I would personally prefer West Bromwich Albion over Real Madrid. So if we were to go by that statement, I would organize them this way. Does it still make sense?
Yeah. Okay. I can. I'm not gonna argue about. I'm not going to argue that they should be lower when they have two of my favourite players, and Mane just will bang goals in. I wouldn't be surprised if I can't remember who else they've got on the wing, but if Mane actually ends up starting at striker ahead of Chiro.
Do you think that's possible?
It's possible because one of the players that's not in that starting 11 for Hadley, who will definitely get a lot of game time and be really good, is João Felix. So it's possible that Mane gets moved up front and Felix on the left, or even just Felix up front over Immobile.
Yeah, I think there's interesting stuff going on there. So yeah, let's place them there and move on to Los Rios, a team that have struggled with identity issues over the years. I think, is that fair to say? They've, for me, Rios every year have been a kind of just a bunch of lads as opposed to a team. I know that's classic pundit cliche, but they feel like they've been put together because they were the best player available rather than a thought to a cohesive unit.
So the third season in the league for Los Rios today, or this season rather. They finished 9th, so bang in the middle in their first season. And last season was really difficult for them. This season here, they have some really, really good prospects on the team. Like Salah is, of course, tremendous. Rakitic should be decent. Gomez as DC should be good as well. Am I wrong in thinking that Oblak is one of the better keepers of the league?
He is one of the 3 or 4 best keepers in the game.
So
it's Neuer, Alisson, and then I can't remember which way around Oblak and ter Stegen are, but it's one then the other. I think ter Stegen ahead of Oblak, but both great.
When you tally that up, they have a great keeper, one excellent central defender, one good midfielder, one outstanding winger, and the rest seems like the backbone of the team. Like that, there's a name for it. I can't remember what it is in English.
But what is it in French?
Épine dorsale, which is basically backbone. I think like it's just
spine.
The spine of the team, like going from basically keeper to striker. Like that straight line between striker and keeper is pretty good. Like that's one keeper, one defender, one midfielder, have the winger striker Salah and like Dzeko in the middle. So Dzeko is not amazing, but if you put Salah on instead of Dzeko, suddenly you find that backbone and that spine of the team that to me sounds really, really good.
Yeah, Dzeko
Yeah, I
has.
think.
You go, Weller.
Sorry, you go, mate. No, I was going to move it on from Dzeko. So if you want to follow
Oh
up
yeah,
on
I
Dzeko.
was gonna just say Dzeko's a fucking shithead.
I mean,
Good stuff.
the other thing when you look at it is the right side between Trent Alexander-Arnold and Salah, on top of having, I'd say that like they play together, they play in the same club, so they should have some level of
Chemistry.
and chemistry. And thank you. Is it the best right wing you can find like in real life as well today? Is there a better right wing than that in real life? Is there a better right wing than that in the game?
I'm going to start by saying Reece, no, Navas and Muniain are not better than Trent and Salah. But yeah, I think it's really interesting the way Adam's team is set up because he's got a lot of industry in that midfield three. Not a lot of creativity. Like none of them are the players you're going to be like, well, they're going to be how the defense and attack link. But then you look at those wing backs, Alba and Trent are essentially playing as, like left and right wingers in this team. And then you've got Martial and Salah pushing up to join in up front. And it's going to be really interesting to see how Football Manager can replicate that because it's weirdly obviously helped by having 5 players from it, but it's really similar to Liverpool's current team in that regard. Obviously Liverpool, this season have brought Thiago into their midfield, but previously you were looking at Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, Jorginho Wijnaldum, Jordan Henderson, Naby Keita. No players who are going to be able to provide that like creative flair to link stuff, but Alba as like an Andrew Robertson stand-in is pretty sensational. The biggest thing it's missing, obviously, from that Liverpool side is it's got Boateng in it instead of Van Dijk. And if this season's shown one thing, it's that Liverpool suffer a bit without Van Dijk.
And
Sure.
this team is probably going to suffer by not having Klopp as manager.
Yeah.
Reece seems to think this team is going to finish top 5. How do we feel about that?
I'm very much on Reese's side here. I do think the team is really strong. They have 5, sorry, did you say 5? Yeah, 5 players from the same team in the game, so you have chemistry all on the same side of the pitch. The keeper is one of the top. Boateng, although not being Van Dijk, should be a really good stand-in for Van Dijk as well. The lacking bit would be that left side. It does feel like this for me would be a top 5 team. I agree with Reece.
Yeah, to make the Liverpool comparison again, the only real weaknesses are Boateng is a drop off from Van Dijk because basically every defender is, and then Martial and Dzeko are not really a very good analog for Mane and Firmino. Otherwise, I think Adam's done a pretty good job of nailing that Liverpool style.
All right, let's
agree. And
let's whack him into 5th then.
Yeah, I think to prevent a chat revolt, they should definitely at least go above the Martyrs, and then either just above or just below the Menace. I think
I would put them above, and I wouldn't mind putting them even like second of potential champion. Like it's probably time to look into these type of positions now.
Let's hold off on the champion for a few more.
I've got an idea.
I've got a specific one I want to put there.
Me too. Me too.
Would be. I would then, unless it can change later on. I totally agree with that. But at the moment, I do like the Manx a lot. But Heroes look a lot stronger for me. So I would not a lot stronger, looked stronger to me. I would put them above the Manx for the time being. They can be brought down below as we go along.
All right. Okay, moving on. We have Le Ball de la Foot.
I'll let you guys start, I guess. It would be the fair way to go about it.
I mean, I think you're missing that real top-tier striker, someone who could be in competition to, take that slot just below Lewandowski when we're talking about the very best strikers in the world.
See, what I think is missing here is an unselfish striker, someone who is not necessarily going to score a load of goals for himself, but is going to get the wingers involved, and provide a lot of assists and be more of a talisman than a goal scorer.
I have to say what you both say is very, very, very fair. This is the style I have, I know, and I built it for this, and I'm lacking this, but I just couldn't see myself to stand up for the values of the club. Pick Benzema again for the time being.
Yes.
So that's why I had to drop it, not to name him, but to name him anyway. So yeah, and the other truth is
Kareem B. No, that's too obvious. K Benzema.
KB. But yeah, so yeah, I that's the other thing. Like I try to. Benzema is the only star player I've taken. I've taken him 3 times, and that's because I liked him. Like I do like him. The player he is. I do like that style a lot. But I do like also a little bit of variation. So we're season 6 now. I wanted to go for another top player. I had Mbappe. I had Hazard. I just wanted to give a try to Griezmann. And that's how I start thinking about my teams. I think about what top player do I want, and after that, what type of system would I want to see them play in. After that, I try to build a team.
Okay. Without having this devolve completely into Benzema, what do we think is the weakness of this team, Wammer? If you were being incisive about where you think the problems are here that might stop this team being the champions.
I mean, for me, it goes back to what we've said with a couple of these teams, that you either need that top keeper or the top centre-backs. And Navas isn't a bad keeper, obviously, and I think for the set of keepers that Vince has available to him, I think Navas is the best keeper available. Lovren, you could do better than as a defender. I don't think Florenzi is particularly solid as a right back, but my main concern is that Pjanic and Lo Celso are a fantastic double pivot in midfield, and Griezmann obviously was amazing for me last year. I don't know what the exact stats on Fekir and Dembele are. I'm sure Reece will be able to provide them, but I feel like that front four does have goals, and I feel like the midfield is good. Marquinhos, I think, is good, and I think Hernandez can get forward. But I'm looking at that little sort of triangle of Lovren, Florenzi, and Navas and thinking that you're going to be quite vulnerable in that region.
Yeah, I totally hear that. And you're putting the finger on something that's real. I do want to keep that identity for the team of either being French or having played in Ligue 1. So that's definitely a constraint for me. That also means the order in which I pick the players makes a big difference. For example, I've picked. That's also why I picked Idrissa Gueye in season 2 so early, because I was freaking out about the fact that all the good defensive midfielders were going, and the next drop off would be even bigger than that. So I thought that was a mistake, obviously. Here I kind of did the same with Naby Keita. I saw many defensive midfielders gone, and I wanted the top one, and I didn't realize that Fabinho was still available. I really regretted it. But yeah, so I had to play a bit around this, and yeah, that's very fair. I do think Lovren is not up there, although he's been serviceable every year as I've had him. I do think Navas is an excellent keeper even in the game, though. But Florenzi is lacking for sure. Lo Celso, I like him a lot, and I've taken a big liking to him, but he isn't as great as what others could be. Pjanic is tremendous. He's been top 3 or 5 of my team every season I've played. Fekir I like a lot, and last year he's had a good season if I remember correctly.
Yeah, there's been a lot of chat about that in the chat.
Fekir getting a lot of love. So yeah, that Fekir, Griezmann, Icardi, we could be seeing that as some. So they could be being the Benzemas for Icardi to whack in some goals.
Yeah. Oh, very quickly, just to throw on the weakness, I also don't think Dembele is particularly good at tracking back. So I think on the side that you're already weaker on is where you've also got a defensive weakness. But focusing on the other side, Fekir and Griezmann, and it depends which Icardi you get as well, because he's in past Gobshite seasons he's worked in fits and starts, and if you can get him firing as he does when he's in form, that's going to make a huge difference.
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the key things. For me, when drafting, that position of number 9 of strikers is really, really hard to fit in, because once you take Benzema out of the picture, the next pick is Icardi, The next one is Cavani, which is already a step below, as much as I like the player, but that's in the game still a step below. And the next one again is like Depay, and you start digging and digging, digging. Like the pool of number nines I have access to is very limited. So like it's definitely a big constraint for me. And I know it's always going to be a weakness of La Boule de la Foot moving forward.
So, do we put this team next to Menace above Martyrs?
No. I would have put us like somewhere around there, to be very honest, for exactly the reason James mentioned. I do think the defense is going to struggle.
I think to stop the chat like absolutely rebelling, we should probably move Martyrs down, because I'm not happy with them being that far ahead of La Boule de la Foot. I think La Boule de la Foot probably belong in the BBC Arbor Red region for me. Or winner an Ultimate Champion. That's also good.
If you want to keep it easy, we can do it like that for the chat. I'm very happy with that.
How great would that be if we just went through this and incisively and sincerely reviewed every single team and then just put us three first, second, third?
I mean, I'm not.
Why did we not conspire to do this?
We should have thought about that.
I don't object to that because it's the highest Maychess are ever going to get rated on this. So I don't. I think La Boule de la Foot should be higher than that. I would prefer them to be in the same, at least in the same bracket as Halfman, Weasels, Wedge.
So something like this.
Yeah, let's put them there. Let's put them there. We don't have to fully agree on this. It's a kind of. It's a consensus, isn't it?
Sorry, you go.
I would put. I didn't like Chios that much, and I would probably have put them higher. But you two did like Chios, so I think we're okay there. And
I would always say with these things, and it's the same thing I say when talking about rankings and reviews and stuff generally, is that while the tier listing that we end up with is the nice sort of like, clickbaity screenshot that we can use, the more important stuff is all the bullshit that we've been saying in between the ranking placements.
Absolutely.
If people want to tear us apart for overrating Gabriel Jesus or whatever, that's fine. If people want to go, oh, how can you have the Boule de la Foot 2 places below Wedge, Bromwich Albion or whatever, then it's like, whatever. This is clearly, we're doing this quite loosely as we go along. We haven't pre-planned the order we're finishing on.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. But so can we pause there for a second?
Yes.
Is there any other change we would want to make in the rankings before we go into the 5 last teams of the 2-2 place? Like, I understand I'm very hot on the Hijos today, but would you want to rank them lower than that?
For me, I'd have the Manx above them. I'd swap them with the Manx. But that's just for me. And otherwise, like there's stuff that I disagree with, but nothing substantial enough to gripe about.
Yeah, I think we're absolutely fine, and I'm fairly sure we're all going to agree on who the ultimate champion is. So that's also fine.
Might be one more thing, which is the Weasels, and I don't mean it just because they have Messi and there's the gimmick. I do think they should be probably below Wedge, and I wouldn't be surprised if the actual ranking changes a bit to ultimately bring them more towards the actually 10th position.
Sure.
Okay, that's what I wanted to say.
Core has arrived in chat and called us clueless. As we've just said, completely accurate. You may even say utter gobshites. Let's move on as we are getting near the end now, near to the exciting teams. The Pigs.
Yeah. The Pigs.
And
I don't think it's a secret to say that Johannes is going to try and get Simeone as his manager, and he's trying to do what Reece did in the first season.
Yep.
Think it?
I think.
Sorry.
I think they seem completely separate from their brains. Oh God, getting hammered by recent chat. It's fine. Okay, so what do we think of this Pigs team? And Simeone got a big boost manager-wise. He had a great run with Fallas last season, which was good. I think did wasn't he playing 4-4-1-1 last season, or is he back to 4-4-2?
It's a good question. I've actually got the editor up at the moment, so while you talk about other stuff, I'll have a quick look and
Okay.
see what it says.
So let's just look at that top two of Aguero and Lukaku, two of Manchester's finest.
I mean, there's another Manchester player on the pitch, isn't it? Like Blind played for Manchester for some point.
Yeah.
At some point.
Blind is someone I was going to come on to as a potential weak link in here. Like, I'm not sure he is the. Varane is a very good centre back. Blind is I've always seen as more of a utility player than a regular starter in any team.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. Like, it feels like if there was another player to take his place and that player got injured, like Blind would be able to fit in like anywhere in that bottom left corner of that image, like between left, the central defender or defensive midfielders on the left. I have to say, and I agree with the chat, the front two here, Aguero and Lukaku, is definitely like the strong point of the team for me. Like, this is a very, very frightening line. Like, when you pair Lukaku with the third best striker in the world, like moving around him so well, there's definitely something that can happen.
Yeah, that's going to...
Just to follow up on that, I have looked, and Simeone's preferred formation is 4-4-1-1. His second preferred formation is 4-3-2-1. His defensive formation is also 4-4-1-1. The only formation that actually has two up front is his attacking formation, which is 4-2-4 wide. Obviously, Aguero is capable of playing as a shadow striker behind Lukaku. And I imagine that's what he will do in practice.
Yeah, probably. I mean, Aguero is able to play nearly anywhere in the front line. Like, he can do everything, to be very honest. A lot of it, at least. He doesn't lick and play like other players, but he's very good.
Yeah.
He's got that poacher's instinct, though.
Exactly.
I do really like this team. I think it's got a very strong core, and I think Jojo's done a grand job of kind of seeing where he was in the draft and kind of planning accordingly, which I don't think everyone does. Like, I don't really give a shit until about three picks before me who I'm going to go for, whereas you get the impression that Jojo went, I'm going to get a 4-4-2 with two of the best strikers available, and then we'll just build a Route 1 team to play around that. And I think he's done a decent job of it.
It is worth asking very quickly, before we focus too much on Jojo's team, though, how do we feel about Reece claiming that Aguero is like his favourite player and he'll make sure to draft him at every opportunity? And this is the second time now that Reece has passed up the opportunity to take Aguero. Like, do we take this as he prefers Sergio Ramos to Sergio Aguero? Or did he just type the wrong Sergio in? What's the deal there?
I think it's more Reece fighting against himself, because he knows Benzema is better, but he doesn't want to take him. He would want to take Aguero. And because there's a dichotomy somewhere there, he'd rather take neither.
Possible.
Yeah, just to argue with recent chat, I think none of us are saying that this attack is bad. I think we're all saying it's a very good attack.
Yeah, have we said a single bad word about Aguero and Lukaku as a partnership?
I mean, yeah, they do look very strong. It's definitely the strong point of the team. And when you start to place them, I've been surprised. Like, Guerrero, if I understand, seems to be very good in the game. I didn't rate him that highly, so I like him a lot, but I'm surprised he is seen that well. And when you put him next to Varane, definitely really good. Like Isco, Koke, Pulisic, good players as well. Like, the front two is just so strong.
Yeah, if we have to find holes in this team, for me, weirdly, given that it's a Simeone-esque team, my issues would be defensively, because it is a fantastic front two players. But the problem with having a fantastic front two is like the degree to which like it takes a player out of your midfield or out of your back three. So in this case, it's a standard 4-4-2. Rodri and Koke are both pretty capable. Like Rodri especially is very defensive minded. Koke is just a great player. He can do everything. Pulisic and Isco are both maybe a bit too attacking for me, given that we've already got two strikers up front. I'd maybe have liked one of those to be a more defensive-minded player. Like having one of them is fine, but instead of Isco, I'd have maybe looked for, obviously not Jesus Navas because Reece had him, but that sort of player, one who is more of a defensive-minded player on one side. And then that's doubled down with Guerrero and Cuadrado, who are both more wing-backs than full-backs. And I feel like that's putting a lot of pressure on Blind especially, who I know from when I tried to draft a Simeone team in the first season of the Gobshite League. While Blind is a great player, he's not necessarily good enough to be one of your two defenders in a 4-4-2 like this. And with Sommer not being an elite, Chesney, Alisson, Neuer type goalkeeper, I do feel that he might not be able to get that, killing off games style Simeone side he wants, even though I think that it's actually a really good team still. I just think that he's drafted a team with the intention of getting like 1-0s, 2-0s, and there's going to be a lot of like 3-3s.
Fair. I'm curious to see how many goals the Aguero-Lukaku pair will have scored at the end of the league. I believe it's something I'm going to keep a count on because I expect it to be really significant.
Okay, so where do we put the pigs?
To me, they go in the first third of the rankings just because of Aguero-Lukaku, but
Yeah.
I can see the argument to bring them lower.
I could get on board with them in that 4th, 5th, 6th. I would probably put them ahead of Menace and Martyrs actually, but that's just me.
I'd put them. I personally, I can't. I'm going to scroll back and look at what Menace's side was again, because in my head they're one of the better ones.
I mean, Menace
for me, Menace is still better, but I'm definitely happy with them going ahead of Martyrs.
All right, I've just turned the wrong thing off. I've disappeared. Okay, moving on. Barcelona. I mean, you talk about perennial top half finishers. Have they been great every season because of Pep, or have they been great every season because Stefan has just drafted really well every single season?
Yeah, this team is terrifying.
I have to admit that's one of the questions that Jack just asked about. Was that the Pep effect? This season might answer that question because they won't have access to Pep. So I'm just curious, but I agree that team here looks tremendous. Stefan has been great every season. Like last season was their worst finish, I think, of the league so far, and they finished with 7th. I can't remember for sure. 7th. There you go, and that was probably their worst finish so far. So that's to say, I would expect them to be definitely in the top third and definitely in contention for the title.
Yeah, I think nailing a manager down early after kind of after missing out on Pep or just not wanting to go for Pep so early, I think getting Neuer is a great shout. And yeah, I think this is a really, really solid team, and we should expect good things. We should expect a Barcelona performance from this Barcelona team because they seem to they make it happen every single season, and it's been really annoying going after Stefan in the draft because there's a lot of the time there's players that I'm looking at going, oh, I wouldn't mind it if I get them, and then just before it, Stefan takes one, Calvin takes the next one, and I'm left with a bag of shit.
Some points that are being made in the chat around the defense being a bit shaky. Yes, Hernandez here, that's Theo Hernandez, if I remember correctly. It's really good, but I have to admit it might be more of a. I know he can play central defender, but it's technically more of a left wing back. But when
It's
you have a consolidated
Lucas Hernandez, not Theo.
You've got Theo.
Theo, man.
Yeah, you
Sorry,
drafted Theo Hernandez.
Okay, so Lucas is the central defender of the two. So yeah, Alphonso Davies is great. Like the wing backs are tremendous. Bentancourt has proven to be like very solid all seasons long. The team just looks really good, really, really strong overall.
Yeah, and the Cora said in the chat that the midfield is weak. I can only assume he means going forward, because I think Bentancur and Neves are both pretty solid defensively to sit in front of that back four. And I think that's where the wing backs of Davies and Alves come in, right? Because they're basically doing the job of attacking for that midfield, and the midfield's just got to sit and ping balls forwards, right? Or am I missing something really obvious?
Agree with you. I would agree with you. And then again, like you see, like the spine of the team, like Neuer at one end, Suarez at the other. That's just two top players at in both surfaces. Or in both surfaces. So like it's like this sounds good.
Yeah, you've got a top goalkeeper at the back of the pitch. You've got another top goalkeeper at the front of the pitch.
So where would we rank that team?
Where would we rank the team? Indeed, just to answer some chat questions. We're being accused of being too kind on this team because it's Stefan who's had a lot of good teams, which is probably accurate. But I also think we're doing that for a reason, because like there's 6 seasons of this now, and Stefan has put a good team together every single time, whereas other DOFs haven't always made a team work. Is probably where I'm landing there.
Yeah, Reese is doing a lot of chat about how good other teams are for the DOF of a team where he doesn't get to choose its kit, its 9th or 21st round picks, or its manager because he lost a bunch of bets last season.
Okay, so I wouldn't put Barcelona in first place. I would probably put them in third.
So would you push Heroes top up, or would you put them down?
I'd put them down, bump everyone else down.
Yeah, I mean, the more I look at it, the more I want to swap Hijos and Menace. Not that I don't think Hijos are great. I think Hijos can challenge. I think, for me, there's a gap between Menace and Pigs here. And I think once they swap, I think there's a gap between Hijos and Pigs.
And I'm also really tempted to have first loser and third, have them. I know we're supposed to nail our colours to the mast, but for conceptual and vertical symmetry, have second and third in a tier together, because I don't think there's that much between Manx and Farce.
I know that, but that's not the exercise here, Jack. We want to split them clearly.
Okay.
We want to put the pressure on the shoulders of the second more than on the shoulders of the third.
Cool. All right.
Who do you want to put more pressure on? Do you want more pressure on Jake or on Stefan?
I think Jake can take the pressure. Let's move. In fact, can we just give us a quick break so I can grab another drink? Are we acceptable? If I move us on to the next slide, you two can chat for a bit, and I will be back in a second.
Sure.
Cool. Right. Get that off. I'll be back in a sec.
Thank you. Which gives us a lot of time to talk about FC Source.
Yeah.
Excellent. So FC Source, champions in season 3. What to say about the team? So they start with a very, very strong front one. I think.
I mean, yeah, like for all putting memes to one side for a moment, Benzema is a very good striker. He scores a lot of goals. He gets involved in play a lot. My one question would be, like, you've touted quite loudly and often, Vince, the importance he does in setting up chances for the other attacking players. And I'm not completely convinced that Brandt and Carrasco are the players to benefit from that.
I get your points, and yeah, that makes sense. That being said, we've seen in past seasons that SMS could be the player to do that.
To an extent. I mean, SMS, when he was amazing for me, and I do think, unless feel free to correct me if I'm forgetting something really obvious, I do think that it was the one season that he's been truly amazing, that season 3. A lot of what he was doing that was amazing was pinging goals in from outside the box. And I don't know if those are necessarily the chances Benzema sets up.
No, you're very right. Like, I agree with you. The wingers here don't seem the kind of wingers that suit Benzema. Like, there is that idea in modern football or contemporary football of like wingers being winger strikers, like a la Ronaldo or a la Bale, technically, and that definitely are the kind of players that Benzema makes thrive. I don't know that Brandt and Carrasco are these players. And there's something I wanted to say as well, because I'm sure Reese will mention it in the chat. Last year's Benzema, so last year it's been very tough for level of fruit. And apart from the gimmick and the joke around Benzema and Aguero, Benzema has had a terrible year last year. It hasn't been the case all season. Like, the other seasons I've played Benzema, it's been really good. But last season was really, really, really hard for him. And when you compare this side with the side I had last season, and now I just want to double check to make sure that I'm not saying something completely wrong. There and there. Like, the side I had, I believe, was the wingers were slightly more strikers than this one. Like, I had Depay being one, which definitely sounds more of the strikery, at least, than the other. And the other one was James Rodriguez, which isn't necessarily a big striker or winger per se, but hey, you got to give it a try. So yeah, your point does stand. I think that wingers might not be decisive enough.
This
possibly, and especially when you look at, like, because I've seen Francisco said in the chat that my team has the same problem. I guess my counter argument to that would be that I have Odegaard also up there, whereas Nicky's most attacking midfielder is SMS, who, like, again, with the obvious exception of the one season he was amazing for me, has never lit up the goal scoring charts.
Yeah.
My issue with this team, it reminds me a lot, without being too unfavourable to Nicky here, it reminds me a lot of Manchester last season. A lot of industry, a lot of tackling, but maybe not. So maybe they lacking a creative presence.
Yeah, like, you look at that midfield and it's definitely a lot of industry. And whereas when we said that about Hijos, they had Salah in the top 3, as well as Martial and Dzeko, who, while I don't think they're necessarily the best fits, are goal scorers. And they also, most importantly, had those fullbacks of Alba and Trent who are going to bomb forward. Mendy and Danilo can do that to an extent, but I think both of those are downgrades on Alba and Alexander-Arnold. And I don't think, like, Brandt and Carrasco basically feel like the wrong players for me for this side. If they were inside forwards, I would probably be putting this team like 5 places higher than I would be.
Okay.
Or than I'm going to be suggesting.
So where are we putting them then? Oh, if you want to make another point, Vince.
Yeah, actually, I was actually thinking that we've been talking quite harshly about FC Sousse, but their back 4 and keeper is really top level. Like, Lenglet and Kimpembe are 2 very solid, 2 strong defenders. Danilo, Mendy are good wing backs. Mendy maybe a bit less than Danilo, and Alisson is top keeper. When you think about it, just before we were looking at keeper and striker being like both surfaces top level. All jokes aside, Alisson and Benzema are this type of profile. And on top of it, here, the two central defenders are definitely really good as well.
Sure. So where do we put these?
They are French.
So I wouldn't rank it top. I wouldn't rank it bottom either. I would rank it weirdly somewhere within that pack of 7 to 12.
Yeah.
I would put them near the lower part of 7 to 12 because I do take Vince's point that Benzema is fully capable. Obviously, last season he didn't show it, but generally he's fully capable of being a fantastic player. And Alisson is one of the best goalkeepers available. And there's a lot of good players. You look at that midfield of SMS, Kovacic, and Witsel. And while we've been critical about how it would be creatively, I imagine that will not be a fun midfield trio to try and attack against. So I think that Sirs, between Alisson in goal and that midfield, they're going to be quite resilient. Then they're not going to have the most fun highlight-filled games. And with Benzema, if Nicky gets the Benzema of old and not the Benzema of season 5, I think there's always the capability of grabbing goals. So I do think Nicky will do well enough. Like, he's definitely not going to be near the bottom, but I don't think I'd have him as a title challenger. So yeah, 7th to 12th region for me.
The more you talk about them, the more I think they sound like my team from last year, and I think they might struggle. So we'll see. And Cora is saying I had to dislike the stream. I prefer the Arbor Red team to that Sirs team, but that's where we are. And I think there's probably recency bias going on here in that we've been talking for like an hour and a half now. But
Yeah.
it's we'll see. Let's move on to our second to last team. The Pocket Dogs. Now, on paper, for me, this is the best team.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, on paper, you look at Martinez, they've got one of the top 10 strikers in the league. They've got the outstanding young goalkeeper. They've got a pairing of age and youth, experience and youth in that Chiellini De Ligt centre-back pairing. Alaba has shown multiple seasons that he's one of the best left-backs in the game. Hazard and Gnabry are both very capable of creating stuff. The midfield is full of players who on paper are excellent. And I just don't see how you can put them lower than first, frankly.
Yeah, just straight in there for me. Absolutely, just there's not a doubt in my mind that this team will win the league. There's no weaknesses there. No weaknesses at all.
I mean, the thing is, we know that our colleagues from media preseason rankings all around the planet rank the Pocket Dogs or value the Pocket Dogs very, very highly, and honestly, very rightly so. They have the vision of the club has been really, really tremendous across the 5 seasons. They don't play Messi this year again, which I believe is an asset for them to not finish average in the middle. When I look at a team like this, Hazard, Gnabry, like top wingers. I'm less hot on Martinez, although I understand he's top 10. Midfielder is very, very, hardworking, I think. De Ligt, tremendous central defender, accompanied by Chiellini, who's, like, although being aging a bit, has still a lot of years in front of him. And you think, yeah, I don't know Oyarzabal very well, I have to admit.
I can tell. Did you make this formation, Mage? Not Mage, Vince.
I did make this formation, agreeing with the DOF that it would be a flying V, but he did admit that he wasn't sure yet.
Because my only issue is that you have put like an attacking midfielder at right back, and I did mean to question that, but we ran out of time before the stream started. But he's not a right back and never has been.
Is he not? Because when if I remember correctly, when I checked on FM Database, he was marked down as potential right back, and it was the only one I could see in the team that could play at his position. So that's why I did
No,
put
yeah, I
Olise
think
there.
the intended right back here is Militao.
Oh, I might have confused it with Odriozola.
Yeah, I think that's what's
Mickey might
happening.
be
So
right.
Odriozola is a right back. Oyarzabal is an attacking midfielder.
I see. You
Apologies.
put Militao in there, and that just really cements it in my mind. That I'm completely on board with the Pocket Dogs, and yeah, let's put them in the first place.
I mean, I feel like without argument, they're in first place. The question is whether they deserve the first place or not. And I do genuinely, like, all jokes aside, I do think it's a really good side. I think that the midfield is not its standout, but I think it's good enough at what it needs to be doing to make the side work. I really like the front three, and I think it's going to be a difficult side to score against. So if I think it's going to score goals and be difficult to score against, it's got to be really good. And then when you throw in, the on paper factor, it's first.
Yeah, I mean, everyone else in chat has been complaining that we've been putting their team too low. I think Calvin might be the only person to complain that we put his team too high.
To be very honest, I do think it's a strong team. I would place it probably somewhere around that top third of the rankings. Where in that top third, I'm happy to leave that to you guys. Winner and ultimate champion, I do think the team has the potential to do so. I do think the team has the potential to do so, like a few other teams. So I don't mind it.
Okay, let's move on because corpsing all over this. Right. Manchester United. I will let the rest of you talk because that's what everyone else has done.
I mean, I feel like we should start with your choice of goalkeeper, Mate. Can you explain putting a centre back in goal?
I can explain that by the fact that I said his name was Mats, and Vince thought Vince either did it on purpose or was just dicking about. It should be Ter Stegen, but it's actually Mats Hummels who plays for a different team.
Let me think about that, because clearly it won't be Mats Hummels. But I don't know. Like, I have to admit, I had to rush through my other journalistic obligations, and I might have Mats. Yeah, that's why. Yeah, I saw Mats and I just went. My mind connected Hummels without even thinking about what it meant. So apologies for that. Who's your keeper, you said?
It's Marc-Andre Ter Stegen, MATS, Mats.
Ah, okay. There you go. So yeah, place Ter Stegen instead.
So with that glaring issue fixed, I don't hate this team. It's a lot of lads that I like. They're probably not going to do very well, but I think if you're judging a team by how much you want to go on a stag do with them, this is the stag do team.
I think it's more than that, to be honest. I think I really like your midfield three. I think Mats is obviously a great keeper, and Bonucci is one of the better defenders. I think that his partner, be it Evans or Inigo Martinez, I think either way is probably a weak point. And I think that your front three are going to need, they're going to need to excel more than they have in previous seasons to properly kick on and score loads of goals. But broadly, I really like the makeup of the team. But I think that might just be because I really like Saul and Casemiro.
Yeah, I am a little bit concerned about Vardy, and very concerned if DCL doesn't step up into replacing Vardy kind of midway through the season, we're going to really, really struggle.
I mean, I do like Depay a lot, and I'm jealous to see him on another side in level with a foot. But I don't think he is a top winger in the game. I don't think he should be starting in an 18 teams league. maybe barely in a 20 teams league. It did start for me last year though, but I did draft terribly my front three last year, so I don't know.
He was starting striker the year that we finished second.
Really?
Yeah.
But you had Ronaldo, didn't you?
We did have Ronaldo, yeah, who was supposed to be
Yeah.
starting striker, but Memphis got a shitload of goals that season.
Yeah, he did. He did. Still, I don't know. Yeah, I do like the team. It has, James said, Saul and Casemiro. Saul and Casemiro are definitely standouts. Bonucci is great. Pereira is tremendous. Mats is decent at least. Evans is like the X factor. So yeah. Like,
Yeah,
where do we put this
I
one?
was just going to say the only other thing I'd say against it is that obviously, as a factor of your glorious triumph against a bunch of bottlers last season, Mate, you got to choose 20th, which has the upside of getting to pick back to back and getting first choice of a keep for next season and so on. It does obviously have the downside that you don't really have any like superstar in the team. You know, your first round pick was ter Stegen, who is the third best keeper, I think, in the save. And so you're looking at that and you're thinking, like, compared to, you know, the people, obviously you've got Ronaldo, but even a bit lower down the draft, people whose first round picks were, you know, like Salah or, you know, Benzema or Aguero or whoever else.
Yeah, going
There's
20th
that lack of excitement.
was very much a choice not for this season. It was a choice to have Casemiro in my team for the rest of forever basically. So yeah, and that was, no one was going to take Casemiro round 1. People might think I'm a bit mad for taking him round 2, but that is what I'm going to do on every reset draft.
To be very honest, I do feel a bit like you, as I felt lucky I got to keep Pjanic as my pick number 2, although he might not have deserved the number 2 pick. Although, actually he might, because it's been so good. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I will say that a lot of the players in this team, Alex Sandro, Ricardo Pereira, have been players that I've wanted since planning to take from season 2 onwards. And Sandro was locked down at Barcelona. Pereira was at FC Surs for a lot of it, and I was just like, well, I'm going to take them because I've wanted them for ages. Which has probably come at the cost of meaning I've got Johnny Evans starting at centre back.
Yeah, fair play. I mean, sometimes you have to make choices between like the identity of the club and the performance, isn't it? It doesn't always go hand in hand.
Absolutely. Okay, so final team. Where are we putting them?
So I wouldn't put them bottom for sure. So they're going to be somewhere between 7 to 12 again, which means that would they be above this? I don't think so. What do you say, James?
I mean, I definitely agree not bottom. I think, yeah, it's really boring to keep saying, but yeah, mid-table somewhere. Like somewhere in that region between Martez and La Ball de la Foot, I guess. Do you have any strong opinions on where they belong in that lot, Mage?
Oh, I think they should be bottom. I just put them bottom so no one can accuse us of bias.
No, you're right. We should put them second behind the Pocket Dogs.
Just having a quick look at it here. So we did talk about Arbor Red being a lot stronger than they were, and wherever we place Mage, or rather the Manchester United, between 7 and 12, that would push Arbor Red back to 16th, and that's something I want to check on here. Like, I just want to remind myself what the team looks like and see if they really deserve a 16th place. Probably not.
The pros for their team, just to go back to them, were Neymar and Muller on the wings, Ederson being a fantastic goalkeeper, and Kimmich and Goretzka as a solid double pivot. The downsides were Morata and Rodrigo aren't really that, I don't feel like they should be starting 11 players in an 18-team league, like you were saying. And Pepe's legs stopped working about 3 years ago, and Felipe's an okay centre back alongside him. But I feel like it's a team that's got too many holes to go higher. That's just me.
I mean, when I look at them and let's say compare them to the teams just above them. So looking at the BBC, okay, I can see the BBC being higher than them, definitely. Let's have a quick look at Surreal, Mane, Fernandes, Pogba. For me, there's an argument about Surreal and Arboret being neck and neck. Laborde the Foot. Although I'll try to remove biases because, guys, I can be very objective when it comes to anything related to French football. But I could see us being lower. I could see us fighting with Surreal and Arboret. I do think BBC deserves to be higher than they are, though.
I mean, I'm reasonably happy with that distribution there.
I'm sure we'll have got at least 5 teams badly wrong, but I think that broadly that table's not going to be too dissimilar to the one at the end. And I think everyone in the chat, saying that we've got a team wrong, I think if they were to do a table, they would also have about 5 things wrong.
Of course,
I'm happy with how it looks. There's stuff that isn't exactly how I'd have it, but it's close enough.
Okay.
I just say fuck it.
So I think probably an interesting thought experiment then, just to kind of wrap up, because we have gone on for longer than I thought. And yeah, what we'll do is, Vince, you can save this as a template, can't you?
I certainly should be able to.
So can
share
we
template?
Can you share the template, and maybe we'll kind of lock that in now, and if anyone else wants to take a swing at it, they can take a swing at it, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that'd be. I can easily do comparisons after. I'll find a way to share it.
Yeah, and maybe at the end of the season, when we have some proper results, we'll do this again, and we'll we'll do this again, and we'll see how well we did. If we were shit, and maybe if someone else was spot on, that'll be good. I think that could be fun. And also, just as a little thing, do we want to make Tuesday night Gobshite discussion night on YouTube, where we have different people come on and we have a chat about what's going on in the league?
That'd be fun to do. I don't know about Tuesday. We can talk about the day. I know Tuesday might not necessarily always be the easiest day for me.
Yeah.
But I do love the idea, and if you guys want to do that, YouTube, Twitch, wherever, we can give it a try. And if it dies after a few weeks, that's fine. I can left it fun.
Maybe it doesn't have to be 2 hours each time, but we'll get different people on. We've got a lot of very opinionated people in. I just think it could be a nice little addition to the growing media around Gobshite Tonight. We've got a name already. Thank you, George. You can be the first guest because of that.
Excellent.
Yeah, so maybe next Tuesday or whatever, we'll have another little chat. Probably the league started then. We can have a look at drafts as a whole. Should be some good fun.
Agreed.
All right. So just to wrap up, thank you everyone for watching and giving us shit in the chat. It's been great fun. Sorry if I said your team was bad. I actually think Arboret should be a lot higher than they are. And I think Hios should be further down. But who cares? It's all a bit of fun. Thank you very much everyone for watching, and we'll be back for more Gobshite Tonight next week, probably, if anyone's interested. Cheers, Vince, and cheers, James.
No worries. Cheers,
Thanks,
mate.
guys.
Cheers, Vince. You two are the ones. Make doing the stream and Vince doing the slides that did the work. I just put a few jokes in. So
cool.
Thank you both. And thanks to everyone for listening.
Yeah, nice one. Cheers, everyone. Bye.
Cheers,